Snow, showers, and thunderstorms here as we're starting to end towards the end of April, plus new model output on higher precipitation totals. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Wood. So let's get right to it. Still have that weather impact alert in place for the Sierra only. We will see those higher impacts developing into the end of the work week and this last weekend of April. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will be the timing when for that weather impact alert. For the impact, it's going to be snow, perhaps even a little thunder snow in there, plus some driving conditions that are going to be a little bit slippery from time to time. So needing to be alert to those changing hourly conditions, especially for some of the local roads. Some of the bigger roads, well, it's been pretty warm, so the roadways are quite warm. It should pretty much melt that snow as it comes in contact. Not anticipating those wide scale, big travel delays. But again, those local roads with a little bit of the melting snow and some icy conditions could get quite slippery. Snow level forecast, now that really hasn't changed much at all. At about 6,000 feet on Friday, falling to near 5,000 feet Saturday through Sunday morning. That's going to put it into some local areas. We're going to keep these ABC 10 Plus weather updates going again on our ABC 10 Plus weather app and our TV app. So check it out. You can download it for free wherever you stream on TV. We've got not only these forecasts, but also our explainers and weather and climate specials. Again, ABC 10 Plus wherever you stream for free on TV. Live radar currently showing dry conditions. There's a slight chance of some thunderstorms well north of the Sacramento region. It's going to be more so towards the extreme northern part of the Sacramento Valley and surrounding hills. Now, for our Friday forecast, we're going to expand that a little bit farther to the south here and actually in through parts of the east side of this year. So a little bit better, more widespread activity developing into our Friday forecast as things really start to get going with a more organized low moving in towards the coast. For Friday, much of the day is actually dry when people are out and about and doing things, getting to work, getting to school. Even on the drive home, most of us are still going to be dry. Where we see the action first start up is where we have a little bit of orographic lift, just with some instability developing. So we'll have that chance of some snow developing earlier in the day. And again, we're tracking the chance of late afternoon thunderstorms throughout parts of the Sacramento Valley. And then we move through the early evening, even the late evening hours, and the northern San Joaquin Valley and the Delta actually getting hit hard first with this first part of the weather system. Now I say hard comparing it to what we normally see this time of year. It has been pretty warm and dry. Sierra starting to see more widespread snow developing. So again, this is when we see the potential for some of the heavier bands of precipitation coming through. It expands throughout the valley during the overnight hours. By Saturday morning, we're starting to see things back off again in terms of widespread action. Scattered showers remain in the forecast for the valley. The Sierra, it's still snow, and that snow line for the mother lode starting to come down to about 5,000 feet. So Arnold, it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. Kind of a mixed bag of precipitation, if you will. Some rain, some snow, all mixed in there throughout the course of the afternoon. So it should be rain for most of this event. By Saturday evening, again, very isolated activity throughout the valley, more scattered throughout the Sierra. This is where we start to see some of those snow totals coming up slightly. It's going to be a slightly higher precipitation forecast than what we were earlier thinking in the week, and that's why it's so important to continue to monitor as guidance starts to improve, confidence starts to become higher, all the models start to come into line with better agreement. By Sunday morning, we're still looking at snow for the Sierra, rain throughout the Sierra foothills. That will extend through parts of the valley. Now, here's a minor change. I am anticipating that some of us will continue to see some Sunday showers because of that low just kind of positioned off the coast. It's sliding its way southward. The big catch there is how close it will move towards the coast and when it finally makes its trek inland, bringing that last pulse of moisture coming through. For the Sierra, it's just a much better chance that we'll hold on to those showers through our Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's our weather impact alert timeline for the Sierra. Light Sierra snow, but that snow will be below the passes, causing some travel delays, and especially for the local roadways, plus the much colder weather in place. Friday through Sunday for the valley, not a weather impact alert, but just one of those situations that wanted to alert you to the fact that we're going to get the cooler temperatures and we're going to see some accumulation. It's little to no for widespread accumulation, but at least it is something this time of year. Thunderstorms also remain a possibility Friday and possibly even through Saturday. We got the warmer air in place ahead of this. Colder air comes rushing in, some instability, and it won't take much this time of year to get a few of those isolated thunderstorms popping up throughout the valley and even the foothills. Saturday is going to be our coolest day, and then we'll slowly start to transition out of this cooler air mass. By next week, though, we're going to be approaching 90 degrees. I think we're going to be just shy, but we're going to continue to monitor how that high pressure ridge will replace what will be a very cold air mass in place for us. Temperatures about 10 to almost 15 degrees below average. Quite a bit of intrusion from that marine layer this morning. So much of the Central Valley started off with areas of the low cloudiness. It did clear, but we're still watching that low approach from off the coast. That will be the big disruptor to what has been a pretty mild start to the work and school week. All of this being said, I know it's not great timing. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, cooler showers, especially for the high country. But we actually need the rain. April's been really dry. Only 5/100ths of an inch of precipitation on the first day of April. Looks like we're going to end April on a little bit of a wetter note. We averaged just under 1.5 inches of rain. So that's going to put us below average for the month. There's really no way that we're going to catch up with over 1 inch of rain from this one weather system moving through. We'll get some precipitation. It's just going to not get us to where we would need to be to call it average. We had a really dry January. February was a wet month. March came in below average, and it looks like we're going to follow that up for April as well. The new drought monitor came in. There's really not too many changes throughout the state. Not surprising, given that we normally don't see a ton of rain in the month of April, so it wouldn't really reflect much of that change. Where we would see those bigger deficits growing in January, say, that's where we saw some of the bigger growth in some of the drought conditions, especially for Southern California. Northern California still remains out of any drought category. No dryness. In fact, once we get through the Central Valley, we actually start to see a little bit of more moderate and dry category develop. But again, week to week, very little change, really not making headlines at all. Just wanted to highlight that. But again, that's not because of this year alone. It's because of the 2 previous years that came in either near average or above average. That has kind of given us a cushion of what we would normally see a concern for this year, being that those precipitation numbers are a little bit lower. If we don't get the rain this month, there's really not a lot that we expect. Historically, our numbers just absolutely drop off. In May, we usually see less than 1 inch. By June, it's about 1/4 inch, and then nothing in July and August. I was telling somebody the other day, if we get even 1/100th of an inch of rain in July, let alone 1/10 of an inch, that's a major story for us because it is statistically just extremely dry and hot that time of year. That's when our water meets its highest demand, and why we so often really focus on December, January, and February, because it accounts for 50% of our annual precipitation. We're already past that peak snowpack. We're now into our peak snow melt. All of our reservoirs holding that water for when we need it the most in those upcoming months. We're still sitting pretty nicely here. Our latest measurements for our major reservoir supply levels showing above average conditions. We're anywhere from about 90 to over 95% full. Shasta being our largest reservoir, 96% of capacity. So if you happen to be driving by or you see one of those reservoirs, those beautiful lakes, you're going to notice they're really high right now. This is the time of year that water managers really like to hold on to that supply until we need it during the dry summer months. So again, even moving our way southward, we're still well above average here and looking pretty good, anywhere from about 80 to almost 85% of average. As far as the precipitation forecast, these numbers have come up just in the last 24 hours, about 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 inch of rain throughout the valley, closer to about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch in the foothills, and some areas will be closer to about 3/4 inch of rain coming through. Once we get into the Sierra, also seeing an increase in these numbers. Still minor impacts with slick roads and travel delays, but we could see up to about a foot of snow for Carson, Ebbets, and Sonora passes. Many of those passes still waiting to open, just kind of getting rid of all the winter snow that came through. Lassen coming up to about 8 to 12 inches of snow as well. 80-50 corridor, about 3 to 8 inches of snow for Echo and Donner Summit. That's enough to, again, cause some travel delays. Here comes that low. It's going to be roaring through here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The first places to see some of that precipitation will be the foothills and the Sierra. Now, the northern San Joaquin Valley, just given the trajectory of that low, which is kind of sliding its way ever so slightly to the south, it's that wraparound moisture that begins to impact us into our Saturday forecast. And it will just be highly dependent on where that low decides to park for about a 12-hour time frame where it spends that moisture. But even parts of the Central Valley, Fresno, Bakersfield could potentially see some of those showers and accumulating rain. And again, right through the central Sierra Spine, we see a pretty good snowfall coming in on our Saturday forecast. Things start to wind down on Sunday, but I'm not entirely confident yet that we won't see some showers. So I'm anticipating Sunday we could see a few sprinkles. If nothing else, it's still going to be cool in the wake of that low pressure system until this high starts to build in and bump that storm track well to the north of us, and we get those sinking, warming air. Much likely a warmer forecast by the time we start off that first week of May. You'll see it reflected in our extended forecast. So we'll call for the chance for showers Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Slight chance of those thunderstorms popping up in the central and northern Sacramento Valley and surrounding foothills. Saturday, really in the morning, and then the early afternoon chance of those showers. But again, we're going to track that Sunday forecast for lingering showers into the end of the weekend, the last weekend of April. It's going to be a wet and chilly one here. By next week, we start to see the warming take shape. As you'll see, it becomes much more pronounced by Friday. Through the first weekend of May looks to be a warm one for us, but we're going to get through this weekend with some cooler and showery weather.